You want me to do the lead-in? Or you
We
want
don't do lead-ins. We just start talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edit it.
It's off the cuff.
So it depends on how you want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even have a structure really. This is just
Hey, we got 29 minutes on that battery.
feel flustered. I guess I can just say that it's pretty exciting to be able to talk to other brands as friends. You know, it's like friends first. And,
Oh, we're friends?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's
I'm just saying that for no. No, it's cool. It's cool that we were able to do this from friends from afar.
Yeah. Why are we here? We should probably start with that, right?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
Give the context.
Okay. We are here in preparation for Intersect, which is obviously a show that you guys, Wes and Colin from Nodus, has started in Los Angeles. And now that we're able to collaborate together with other brands, we can actually make it something more impactful, significant, and ultimately give the enthusiast community kind of what they've always wanted. And so, yeah, that's why we're here in Dallas, Texas, at the Jack Mason headquarters.
Yeah. First time outside of LA
Yeah.
for the show. Obviously, I've left LA before.
Man, you chose the best day for this event.
Yeah.
It's currently 120 degrees outside.
I purposely planned it so that you guys can really
Get the
understand.
taste of Texas, right?
I know.
What-
I think it's actually cooler now than it has been in Texas. Right? It's
Man,
been
you
hotter.
guys are crazy.
It's been hotter.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's going to drop to a cool 97 degrees tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah, when we
Shit.
packed 300 people in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, we got to start doing those, those temperature checks.
Yeah.
At the door.
Yeah.
Steve's got some durian mochis in his pocket. He's gonna
I'm bringing them tomorrow.
Yeah, get 300 people in. Pop this bad boys out.
Yeah. No, you guys have an amazing space, though.
Thank you.
Right? I know you've been here for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like the current iteration of Jack Mason looks
Yeah.
very different from what it looked like,
Yeah.
even 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. No, it's no, for sure. And the reason why it's just us four right now. The reason why we are in such a massive space is because at one point back in the day, we actually had up to 23 people, and that's when we were a wholesale business selling to all the retailers. So 75% of those employees were sales reps.
Yeah.
And they're hitting the road, and it's a tiresome job, obviously, sales. They're hitting the road, doing it the old school way, go visit the buyers.
But
try
I
to
mean,
open
that's what's
accounts.
funny, though. You guys started where most microbrands want to get to. You know what I mean? I said that to Craig earlier. He's like, really? Because we look at you guys and we're like, we want to get to your level now.
We're literally moving in that direction.
Yeah.
It's weird because it's like, Steve, you're one of the OGs in the quote unquote microbrand, which that's something we can get to at some point in this conversation. But yeah, like more direct consumer early on.
I've never hired anybody.
Yeah. And
I don't know. I don't have those goals, I guess.
I mean, I think it's like
some people look at me weird. They're like, you need to, start outsourcing things, but I don't know.
I think that's it's a mentality. I mean, it depends on how you want to run your business.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, the charm of it is that when you get a watch from Raven, you know who sent it out, you know who inspected it.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of where the whole microbrand thing started. Where like it's not, it's not so much a mom and pop shop. It's more like an artisan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think it's actually interesting that you say that, because that's precisely why we moved away from wholesale, was because we had no personal interaction with the people actually buying and wearing our watches.
Yeah.
It was all through a buyer. I had no brand control. You had to rely on some part-time, high school. You had to rely on some part-time high school sales rep at a Nordstrom to sell your product, and they may have never even worn a watch in their lives.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, we got to do something about it. If we really want to like stand for something long term, then we need to scale it back and try something different. But if you're trying to just sell as many watches as you can, then yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah. And then at some point you can sell the company.
At some point, like some brands do or have done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've told you guys my philosophy on design has always been, what do I want to wear? So I start with like, what this year, I look at trends, I look at the shows, I look at what's, big brands are doing, and I gravitate towards what I like, and then say, well, how can I create that? And if I like it, then my customers usually like it too, because I have that, background and design and art and just think,
like it's your interpretation of the things that
it's my interpretation of the things I want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you got to go, and then all you have to do is go find. I mean, I say that like it's easy, but it's simple. You just go find other people like you.
Yeah.
Then then you have the guy that's like, hey, can you make this in 36 mil or 32 mil? And I'm like, no, because that's not what I want.
Yeah.
And it's like I might be missing sales there, sure.
Yeah.
And I also have limited amount of funds to pay for each project. So it's like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's cool about all the brands that are here and any other show, is that one guy can buy from, 3 or 4 different brands. Everyone's like, yeah, we're in the same space, but everyone offers a somewhat of a different product, Yeah. And I think that's cool. And
it doesn't feel competitive.
No.
Right? Yeah.
I don't think it is. Like,
yeah.
I think that's what's cool about the fact that we're able to sit here and talk about this, because I'm curious to know, like, from a customer standpoint, they think that we're all battling each other.
Yeah.
It's like, who can make the best watch? But
yeah. And now we're sitting here getting drunk together.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you guys are here, man. California guys and Kansas City, obviously.
Yeah. And thank you for hosting.
Absolutely.
Usually when we do this, we just find a dumpy brewery and say, hey, can we just buy you out for a day?
This is the most legit Intersect has ever been.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like Wes said, beautiful showroom. It's literally perfect for an event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. No, when you guys wanted to, I remember we were in San Francisco and we kind of like
first talked about
toyed around with the idea, and it just kind of was like a light bulb, like, oh, we have the perfect space.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, this is like your last hurrah. You're going to be gone in a month.
I know, but we'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
But because it is kind of like the first kind of cooperative, I don't know, the process felt pretty legit. And so we certainly wanted to, normally what we like to call it the Jack Mason style, we do everything like to the T,
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that the experience was good. We certainly didn't want people who are taking time out of their day to come here to make it feel like it was just whipped together yesterday.
Yeah.
So
I can say you're a lot better at this than we are.
Yeah.
Because we literally just whip it together and we're like, hey, Steve, come over. Let's get
we need to incorporate more Jack Mason style.
Yeah.
I mean, that comes from our history, our background, when we used to go to all the trade shows, talking to buyers. Man, that's crazy. Talking to a buyer versus talking to a customer.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to kiss their ass, the buyer.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously. But with the customer, you're actually able to have a real conversation with them. And
all they want is honesty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They just want honesty.
Yeah.
But not too much honesty, Steve.
Yeah.
Steve at the booths.
I just shipped 60 watches yesterday or the day before, and so they're just all arriving with the customers. I wanted everybody to have them before I got down here.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be good for, Instagram
sweet.
and stuff too. And because I wanted to get everybody their watches and then come and do this. So it's like a relief. So I don't have to go home and do it. But yeah, I've got a few little minor things to take care of when I get back. And
that's awesome.
But yeah, most people are really thrilled and excited about the new. I just launched the Endeavor 2. So,
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah, that's awesome.
It turned out great, and I'm excited for everybody to get it and show it off tomorrow too.
Yeah, that's
big watches need to make a comeback.
I started with big watches, like really big watches, right? So I've been doing this 15 years, and we started with like 47 millimeters. Everything was 24 mil bracelets. A lot of our watches were like 18 millimeters thick.
And the thing is, you're not a big guy.
No,
but your wrist is 6.5 inches.
Yeah, and we would make everything short lug to lug.
Man.
And it's all about wearing the watch. Like, you can't judge on numbers at all.
Yeah,
you got to put the watch on.
That's some personal information.
Like this
about.
Is the what I'm wearing.
Your wrist is 6.5 inches.
That's, we get into these weird. Yeah, we get into these weird.
We
things
know everyone's
in the watch world.
I know you're just by looking at it.
There's all these millimeters talked about. in the watch world.
Millimeters.
You know, we should actually talk about Nodus's beginnings and Raven's beginnings and
Jack Mason's beginnings.
Let's keep it short, man.
Yeah. Keep it short.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. All right.
No. Steve, why don't you go first?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I still get this a lot when people come into my office in Kansas City, and they're excited, and they're excited to find out that there's a watch guy making watches in Kansas City, and so they're like, "How did you get into this?" I'm like, "Man, that's a 15-year long story." So I don't. Yeah, I know about making it short. It's day by day, right? So I started about 15 years ago, 2008. With Ralph, and we did the Benares watches for years. And I started Raven at the same time. I actually don't want to get into this because I did like a 2-hour podcast on the like where we get deep into
with who?
The founding of Raven. I think it's still on my website. I think it's with Worn and Wound. I think Zach, and like the first one I did with Worn and Wound, like how did Raven get started and all that. And there's a lot of drama in there. There's like 3 members that started, and then one fell away, and then then it was just me. And then the other guy from San Diego. And so there's a long story there, but let's just keep it at 15 years and still going. So it's been up and down. I guess like the peak maybe was like 2015. I was running both brands and did the first wind-up show. 16, 17, 18, 19 was fun. Those were all good years. COVID years were okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of I just kind of hunkered down, did my thing, didn't go back to like the wind-up show right away, and then actually that's when I started doing Intersect with you guys because I wanted to get out. I was kind of tired of like everything going on in the world, and you guys were like, "Hey, we're doing a show," and so I ended up back out there with you guys, and I thought that was great.
Now you're in Dallas.
Now I'm in Dallas, and I've been doing like 1 to 2 watch releases a year. So like we kind of bounce back with like the Trekker and then the Endeavor and the Airfield and then the Trekker again. And then the Endeavor 2, Model 2 just came out. And then, I hate to say now, I don't really know what I'm going to do next, but probably leaning towards a Trekker GMT or another Trekker.
Hell yeah.
Because Trekker's sold out. People keep asking, if I'm bringing it back. It's a good size, good watch. It's one of my favorite.
The Trekker is your Seaforth. That's what people know Raven for.
Yeah, and we've done like, I don't know, 4 or 5 versions of the Trekker.
Yeah.
So it's probably coming back right after the Endeavor 2.
I remember back in 2016, 2017, before Nodus started, or right when Nodus was about to start, like the Trekker was amazing.
Yeah. And it came out like right around the Seaforth too, right? And it was those 2, and then the AVIG. Remember AVIG?
Oh yeah, Chip.
Yeah, the Belauer. And I was obsessing about these 3 watches.
Super cool.
Yeah, but we had been we're not friends of Steve, but fans of Raven, the brand, since as far as I can remember. Yeah. Right? Like
the vintage 42.
Yeah.
That was like 2012.
Yeah. I mean, because like you like watches, you know about the Seikos and what like entry level watches. And then when you get into the micro brands, that's when you're like bordering on obsession, right? And I remember clearly it was Raven, Mark II, AVIG, and Helios. Those were the 4 brands that I looked up to. I'll throw Vero in there too because Vero was around doing pretty cool shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steve was one of those guys that basically established American micro brands. This is what we do. This is how we do things.
That's cool.
So meeting him was almost like, and I've told him this before. It was a little weird because it's like, wow, this guy's talking to me like I'm a real person. When, like I've known his work for years.
That's cool. I mean, it's like even like having that kind of influence and impression on not just customers, people who buy your watch, but other people like aspiring to have a brand of their own. I think that's to have that kind of effect on somebody else is like
it goes both ways.
It's pretty.
Makes
unique.
me feel like I'm part of the community as well.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're like the godfather of the community here.
He's one of the pioneers.
Steve doesn't know what he's done for the industry.
Oh man.
He like he said earlier, he keeps his head down and he does his thing, but he doesn't actually understand like what he actually did for micro brands. And it's not just us. I'm just echoing what other younger brands have said as well. Yeah.
So it's super cool. I mean, and the fact that you're, I mean, I only, personally met you in Chicago.
Yeah.
But I mean, such a normal, level-headed person, who seems
I don't know about
still
that part,
very
but
well, it's like, because you could be, if you've been in the game for so long, you can be, and this goes with anything, not just watches. If you've done something for so long, you can be very like grumpy about it. You're like,
you got to fight that off.
Yeah.
Like I have no reason to be arrogant about anything.
Yeah.
But you got to fight off like being critical and what's the word? Like just kind of
jaded.
Yeah. Burned out.
Yeah.
I used to get those trips to Hong Kong and even to Wind Up back then was like motivating because you'd see other people's watches, you'd see people wearing watches, and you would remember why you did this in the first place, right? Like I was always into watches. I used to, like when I was in elementary school, I talked my mom into a number of Swatch watches.
Yeah.
Like, my mom liked to go to the mall and stuff too, so I'm like, hey, I want that watch. So I ended up getting a few when I was in elementary school, and then by middle school, I had got into dive watches, so like plastic.
Okay.
But I still have one of these.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
then in high school, I got into Seikos. And so I always needed my parents to buy them for me, though, because I'm still a kid. But I remember, like, I've been into this for a long time. I know what my customers are feeling.
Yeah.
I know why they're looking at this, why they're thinking about buying this. Like, I do the same with other brands and other watches. So you have to remember that.
You liked plastic watches? So you would have, if you were Steve back then, today, you would have bought that Swatch Blancpain thing.
No. The reason I bought the plastic watch, I was actually, when I was a kid, I was in Boy Scouts and I got certified to dive. And then my friend's dad, he was an only child. And so he asked me to go with their family on a dive trip to Hawaii. So basically we ended up at the Maui dive shop and I wanted that as a tool. Like we were in the dive shop and I saw this watch. I didn't care if it was plastic or metal. I didn't even know the difference. Like I just wanted that watch because it was a tool. And I wanted to like go back home and be like, I went on a scuba trip and this is what I wore, and then wear that in high school and people would be like, that's a cool watch. I'm like, I bought it at a dive shop, so it was more about the adventure and the experience of having that souvenir, like from that dive shop. But that was kind of a gateway to dive watch. So.
That's super cool. I mean, you're like legit watch guy, like like it's so different.
Yeah, who'd have thunk?
It's
you run a watch brand and you're not into watches.
I mean, we were
at does exist.
We were at the Swatch store this morning. Jerry and I went over to the mall to see if they had any of those.
The Blancpain.
No, we want the older one, the Omega one.
The Seamaster.
Which I mean, I got to be honest. Like I don't want one, mainly because it's such a hard to get. Like I don't really, and I don't want to part with whatever they cost for a plastic watch. But at the same time, I'm like, if they have the blue one, I could be tempted to buy that. But I was looking at the other watches they offer. I'm like, this one's a better value. This is a really nice Swatch watch. It's $95. It's probably going to last longer than the Omega. And so and then I was sending pictures to my wife. She's like, I don't need another Swatch watch. Like this one's kind of cool,
So Peter, I want to hear about how you got hooked up with Jack Mason, because I only just found out you didn't actually start it.
Yeah, it wasn't Jack Mason as we know it today. So actually, I can back up.
Yeah.
I, unlike Steve here, I did not have like a watch passion or anything nor did I have like the thought of like thinking that a watch was a tool or anything like that. And my first interaction with a watch, my grandfather bought me a Swiss Army watch when I was in high school. And I thought it was like the coolest thing just because it was like who wears watches like in high school, right? I was more concerned with, I wanted the new North Face backpack. You know what I mean? And so I lived in Chicago, so that brand was like, it was
we didn't wear watches in high school. We thought it was nerdy.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. And so I don't even remember if I like even knew which wrist to put it on, if it was like left or right, whatever. But anyway, I'm a little bit unique in that in most of the microbrand space, just because I was like industrial design trained, went to design school, and then right before graduation, most of the students, you think that you're aspiring to go, any IDU students, you're aspiring to go design the next electronics, like some sort of tech thing, which at that time tech was like CD players and DVD player or MP3 players and things like that. And that's what I wanted to do. And then after graduating, they had a job fair and all that stuff. And then Movado had a table there, and because Movado is headquartered in New Jersey, I went to school in New York City, and I got an interview, and they were the only ones that gave me a job out of everyone that I interviewed. I think I interviewed with Mattel, even like toy design and things like that. But they gave me a job. I was like, it's a job out of college, like secure. Right upon graduation, I can just go. And so I took it, and I remember going into the job, not knowing what I'm about, what I'm going to be doing or anything. I just like, all right, this sounds good. I get there, and then it just kind of blew my mind. Like the entire world, the product itself, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that you can design like every single little part and detail of a watch. And it was like coincidentally right up my alley, because my personality, even the way I design it, is extremely detail oriented. I'm like, this is like perfect for me. I can be as picky as I want to be. And so spent some time there, bounced around with a bunch of watch brands, because obviously Movado Group, Fossil Group, two of the largest watch groups here in the U.S. I worked on Hugo Boss watches. I worked on Tommy Hilfiger watches. All those watches you see in Macy's and things like that. And then
as a designer,
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But after that, I moved to. The reason why I'm in Texas is because I took a job at Fossil Group, and to work for Michelle Watches, which is a women's, like a higher end luxury women's brand. And I took that job purposely because I knew that I wanted to be doing this like for a long, long time. And I wanted to expand my skill set into not only men's watches, but women's watches, how women shop, what they like, higher end, lower end, all that stuff. So I bounced around a few brands in Fossil.
What do women want? No, seriously, tell us what you learned. Like, because moving from, it's a serious question, because you're moving from male design to female design.
Yeah.
So what are they looking for?
It's really interesting, because I knew more then than now. Now it's women don't really wear watches. It's Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, dude, that was the height of Michael Kors.
Yeah.
Mm.
You anything big, gold, shiny, diamonds, whatever was just like was stunning, know, and like women just like the bling, it was very. That's why I wanted to like take that job, because I'm like, well,
Colin, women wear Trekkers.
Yeah.
Really?
My wife does.
Oh.
So yeah, after working at Fossil for a number of years, up to 5 years, during probably the last 2 years I was there, I had already started visualizing what a brand that I would want is, or was. And during that time, I had a couple friends at Fossil, and it's funny you mentioned your drama, which I won't get into. So we had a few founding partners as well, and one of them is no longer in the picture and all that stuff, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, 2015. So the Christmas of 2014, I had decided to leave Fossil to join Jack Mason. And in 2015, after Christmas break and everything, I put my 2-week notice in literally right after the New Year break. It's like, all right, I'm going to go do this thing. And then, and then that was January. And then in July, in 6 months, I had designed, sampled like the entire collection. I mean, I think I had done like 36 SKUs or something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But the reason why it was so many is because we were going to go into the department stores. This is the industry that I came from. So that's what I was used to. We had to design like one watch, 8 different colorways, maybe 2 different styles in there, all that stuff. So like it was like the assortment was built like it was supposed to go right into a mall case. And so we did that, and we became one of the best brands in the stores. But it was
why move away from that though?
Because I was making the wrong product for the wrong person. And for me, as ultimately you want to make what you like, and you also obviously want people to recognize what you make.
Yeah.
And those
the watches were too good for them.
I'm not saying it. No, basically
I'll say
it was. It was. They didn't understand.
They're
what
not
Sapphire,
spec nerds.
Yeah, they're
right?
not.
They don't know what a movement is.
They don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like
automatic or quartz.
This is
doesn't matter.
And so the first watch we made was I love the IWC Big Pilot, so I made a pilot's watch.
Yeah.
And it was that Flieger style, dial, and I put BGW9 like printed 5 times on there. I'm like, this is BGW9.
What do these letters mean?
Like, what is this? It glows blue, and it's like, and no one really understood it.
Yeah,
it's fine. So, I honestly, I wish we kind of made the transition a little bit earlier, but
I mean, I have to say, you guys did an incredible job of moving away from like the Nordstrom, like like the bullshit of the industry into the microbrand world, right? Because you guys make a really good watch.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
right. So
I appreciate that. Yeah,
I almost feel like it's harder to do that than it is to start something from the ground up, and
it is hard.
Right.
It is hard. It's hard to make the decisions of cutting things off.
Yeah.
Because just from like a number standpoint, when we made the switch to exit all of wholesale, I mean, we cold turkey, we literally all 200 like different stores, hey, we're out, we're going online only. So obviously your revenue just it drops. But from a business model standpoint, it's better because you're going direct to consumer. We have a little more money in our pocket to make nicer product and things like that. And so it's not easy, but here we are, and we're ultimately it's a job that we have to do. We wake up and do, and it's certainly more enjoyable to make design product that people actually understand and can appreciate.
Yeah.
So I have a knife brand.
Sure.
Also.
Yeah.
And with our knife brand, we have dealers, but it's not the same as malls because our dealers are also dealing with the enthusiasts. But the dealer network that exists in the knife world, I don't think it exists in the watch world. So it's like it's different. But with our knife, we ship a lot of our stuff to our dealers, and they have their own customers. But it's totally different than a mall.
Yeah,
I think.
I
because it's still the people that are into the specs.
Yeah.
But it's just a better way. So we love our dealers because it's just an extension of our business, and they get paid, to do their part.
Because the dealers, I'm sure the dealers are enthusiasts themselves.
Yes.
So
the dealers get excited and their customers get excited. So it's just like another extension. But I don't have that with my watch business.
Okay.
And I don't have the margins either.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's like, hey, I want to carry your watch. It's a different world. The knife community already has kind of margins established, and we kind of knew that going into it. So
it's
a little more room for us to grow there than it is. I feel like it's harder for me to grow as a micro brand. So
that's actually a really good podcast topic. Obviously,
is
that like how do you make the transition from one thing to another?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we
all want to grow, but we want to grow the right way, and we want to grow, and we want it to be.
You want to do what's healthy for you to be able to continue doing what you do.
Yeah.
But you don't want to piss off the people who are supporting you.
It's a lot more competitive now than when I started. Like,
I'm sure
2008, because you were doing the, with Movado and the bigger companies, and I was working with a guy from Germany who was really the pioneer of figuring out how to make a watch, and go to a factory and figure this out. And back then there was just a few of us. I mean, there was like 3-4 brands. A lot of those brands went out of business like in a 5-year period when I started. But like you say, timing too. It's like that in that time, if we did our job right and we produced a good watch, it was easy. And now it's not as easy because there's a lot of people making a lot of good watches. And to one of those questions that you were gonna that one of the customers was asking about price, it's like it's very competitive to have a good watch at a good price when there's all these other companies doing it.
It's back then, like Alibaba, AliExpress, all that stuff.
That stuff didn't exist.
Didn't exist.
Yeah.
That didn't exist.
So the game has changed.
The factories weren't on Facebook telling people they can start a company tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know,
Kickstarter didn't exist.
Kickstarter didn't exist. Facebook didn't exist when I started.
Yeah.
Like we were on the forums.
Yeah.
And then I remember saying, "Hey, I think we need to get a Facebook page."
Facebook.
We had to get a Facebook page
Yeah.
and it really Facebook turned out to be a good thing for a while. It was, pre-Instagram too.
Yeah.
Instagram turned out to be a good thing to reach customers.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was all forums, and that was a battle. Because you'd have to go in there and battle with the guys who were there.
Well, it's worse now.
Yeah, the
It's
guys who
definitely worse
spend
now.
all day on there,
Yeah.
as the superior knowledge,
Yeah.
the gatekeeper
Yeah.
of the forum.
Now the next frontier is probably like Watch Crunch or something, right? Like,
Yeah, that's a Watch Crunch plug.
I don't know. I've the last couple of years I've realized that if you control your own emails and your own customers, that's the best way. Or even like I used to do more YouTube than I do now, and I kind of want to. It just takes a lot of time. And I'm not that talented at it, so I just never happy seeing myself on YouTube. But like I know that's a good way to reach people.
yeah.
But the email is those people want to hear from you, and if they don't, they can unsubscribe. But like with Instagram, I'll do what I think is a great post, and Instagram's just like, no, we're not going to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how can this one do, get 97 likes, but yesterday was 650? It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So they have all this control where I think with my email, it's like, here's what I made. Here's my offer.
Yeah.
Do you like it? Come and buy it.
Yeah.
So those are really important.
Well, I guess we can get you guys, I know the Nodus guys, Wes and Colin, you guys can share your
Our story's really short.
perfect. That's
We met in 7th grade, started a band, graduated high school, and then started a watch company.
You guys started a band?
Yeah.
Well,
I thought that was kind of a joke, but
No, we were.
we were doing music for 5 years, and it was playing shows, concerts at night,
We wrote an album.
wrote
Released it.
an album, won a bunch of battle of the bands.
what? This is
Dude, I thought like
Weren't
throughout
you a
high
music
school-
major?
Yeah, I went to Berkeley in Boston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my entire life, like literally from as far back as I can remember, I thought I was going to be playing guitar for a living. And then
Wow.
I realized you don't make money playing guitar.
Some do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like three out of like
5 guys.
100,000 people. And now I'm learning the hard way that you don't make money making watches either. But it's a lot more fun, a lot less pressure. I get to hang out with friends. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the story.
yeah.
Well, you guys have, I know that when it's a little bit different because like we came in a little bit later into the scene. And one of the brands that I discovered more often than not was before I met you guys was Nodus. I saw your guys' brand name pop up in a lot of discussions and comments and things of that nature. And so you guys have obviously have made an impact on kind of the microbrand space as well. So which is really cool.
Yeah, they do microbrand right.
Yeah.
With the website, and I like the way you guys do everything. I mean, you have a lot of more models like than I have, and I mean you work hard to keep the level high, like the quality level high. Where a lot of microbrands they just don't have, like, they might sell out, but like they have no website, or they don't have like a big bright future. It's just maybe one watch that everybody wanted to buy.
All right.
So we replaced Cullen with Jerry from
Yep.
Dryden.
Yep.
Dryden Jerry.
Dryden Jerry.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
All right, so yeah, close to the mic, real quick. Who are you? What do you do?
All right, my name is Jerry. I am the founder of Dryden Watch Company. We're based out of Kansas City. I came down here with Steve, and we've had the adventure of eating many a Chinese food at many authentic restaurants.
It's
Soup
our
dumplings.
favorite thing to do.
Yeah, travel, eat food, talk watches, drink bourbon.
When did Dryden start?
In 2019,
Yeah.
I used to, or I guess I still am, a full-time photographer. I started in the wedding industry. Kind of during the off season of weddings, I started photographing watches because that was just like a hobby for me that I got into at the time. And this is like Steve mentioned earlier when I was overhearing the conversation, like this is the early days of like the forum. So like the Watch You Seek, learning about like practical watches, affordable watches, and everything like that. And so I got into it. And then during the off season of weddings, I was like, I can photograph watches. This seems like a fun way to practice my skills and add to my interests and bringing the two together. And this was the organic days of Instagram where what you shared actually got viewed and actually got likes. And so I shared watch photos. And next thing I know, people were like, hey, you took pretty good photos. Can we send you a watch? And
that's interesting. Yeah. So your way into the industry was actually like working for
Well,
people.
I mean, it was also like meeting Steve and drinking and hanging out too.
Yeah.
But it was like I was approached. I was brought into the industry from like a couple different directions.
Yeah.
And so I started getting reached out by different brands. So I was like, hey, can we send you a watch for a couple photos? Great, free watches.
Yeah.
What? There's no lose here, right?
Yeah.
And so I started doing that, and they're like, hey, can we pay you? This is like before content creators was like an official job title that people can put on their resumes. They're like, hey, can we just send you watches every month? And then you photograph them and we use the photos in our ads and whatever. Even better. I'm getting paid to work at home. And then it turned into, hey, can we like exclusively pay you to produce content every month of a certain number of watches, a certain number of photographs that we use every month? Yeah, this sounds like a job. I think I just, why not? Let's do this. So I did that for a few years and kind of learned more about the in and outs of the industry and like, made more connections. And next thing I know, I was like, you know what? I feel like
now you're stuck.
Yeah, now I'm like, and I always knew that, doing wedding photography is something that I was going to retire out of, if you will, in my 30s. It's like, it's not, you can't be 65 and doing the cha-cha slide at a wedding. Like, that's just not, that's not a thing that people are into. And so I was
Steve will be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Steve will out-pull up anybody at a wedding, like hands down. And so I knew that was going to be, I was going to have to switch out of doing that. And I was like, well, why not try this? Right? Like, I feel like I can do the content creation, maybe not as skilled on the design or everything else, but I feel like I feel like that at the time was half of building a brand. Like, you got to get it out there. To get it out there, you have to have good quality content.
Yeah.
And I can produce the content. And so that was kind of how I leaned into it and then started really researching what it takes to actually build the brand and like how things work. And then found my watchmaker and was like, hey, I can be the front half that, goes out and meets people and like does the marketing and stuff. But
you're the designer too.
Right. Yeah. But I know that I can't be the guy that assembles and I don't want to sell something that I'm like, I can't warranty this, or I don't know. Like, I need to know that the things that we produce is a high quality product that I can stand behind and service.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry has a good eye for design. I think it comes from he's a great photographer, and I think that translates to designing products.
Yeah.
And do you remember the first time you showed me the prototype?
No.
That was that was one of our late nights in San Francisco. We were at one of those bars at Wind Up, and you were like, hey, I got this prototype. And I think you were a little nervous to show me, but you're like, look at this. And I was like, dude, this is cool. This is really cool. And that was the night I think we had sausage on the street at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Sausage on the street.
That's a different story.
Street beef. But that was, I think, was that 2017? 2018?
9?
No, when did you go to San
18.
Francisco? It
That
was
was
2018.
Yeah.
That was a fun trip.
So is this like, for you, Jerry, is it like, it's obviously it's your livelihood. It's also a hobby, kind of, right? Do you kind of go day by day, knowing or have some sort of like, hey, aspirations on like where you want Dryden to go or be, or like, I guess I'll just end it there. Like, do you have a vision of where you want Dryden to go?
I think a little bit of both. I feel like with anything, you're always reacting to changing conditions in the marketplace, with the economy and everything like that. Like, there are external factors that you can't control, and then there are external factors that you cannot control, and the internal factors that you have a sense of direction or where you want to go. And I feel like when I first started, I feel like it's the trial by fire, right? Like you have an idea, but you don't have enough data. So you go and do things, and then you're like, wow, I'm learning a lot. And I'm learning about what works, what doesn't work, what works in terms of design, manufacturing, quality control check, warranty. Like all of that process is acquired through basically by doing, right? And I feel like I've accumulated all of that knowledge over the last few years, and now I'm starting, and I'm at the same time phasing out of actually working in the wedding industry. I still have to photograph a few weddings. We bought a house. Like it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like now I'm starting to like get really focused and like really starting to build like, hey, what's our timeline like? What's our envision? Like what's our goal? What are we working to build for our next model, for the next release, for the things that we are passionate about? So that's kind of what I'm working more towards these days.
Is it still just you? You're doing pretty much everything?
Not everything. Like the front end, I don't assemble, right? I have a watchmaker who does all of the assembly, the quality control check. I still write handwritten notes for all of our packages that we ship out. Yeah. And I hope I don't outgrow that.
Yeah.
And he helps me.
Yeah. And I help Steve take photos. And
he takes photos, helps me with the website, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It's really been great because I mean, I'm getting older.
No, I mean, honestly, like the best thing about running Nodus is that it's not just me.
Yeah.
You know, having a business partner to lean on and figure shit out when you don't know the answer.
And that's what I have with Finch, with Spencer and I running that. It's like we have each other to build that business. I don't have that with Raven, so I do rely on my friends.
Yeah.
You know, to help out. So
no, that's cool. I mean, because when you have to celebrate your tiny like victories, like it's a lot more fun to celebrate with somebody, right? Otherwise, you're just sitting in a room like trying to high five yourself.
Yeah.
So Peter, can you look at that customer's question about the microbrands and about the prices? I really want to answer that, and I think Jerry might have some insight to that.
Okay,
too,
so just for the record, we did. I know us at Jack Mason, we asked our customers, knowing that we were going to do this podcast, we asked them what topics they would like us to cover. And I know the Nodus guys did as well.
Yeah, I think we got the exact same question.
Yeah, I think it's a.
How do you decide your price point?
If we're going to ask one question, that's it. That's the one.
Like, how did we decide our?
Well,
that's certainly okay. So that specific question is as follows: micros used to be defined by their price point at around $500, and now we see them pushing $1,000. That's double. Does that mean twice as much in terms of design and quality for the customer, or is it more of an inflationary adjustment? What's the difference between a sub $500 and a sub $1,000 watch these days?
Okay, so
there is no difference.
My answer is going to be based on me only, right, and my experience. But going back years, Ralph and I had a Benares watch that was $2,500. It was a
chrono?
It was a chronograph. It was not the Valjoux. It was the 2824, I think. So it was a more expensive chronograph. The production of that watch was over $1,000, and we got to make our money too. And we didn't make very many of them, and it was extremely limited. And that was like over 10 years ago. So microbrands, which to answer that question, we didn't call ourselves a microbrand. The customer called us a microbrand, and the customer started defining like what our price should be. And our price was based on production. Like, how much did we pay for this production? And we, even back in those days, we put everything into it. And we were with a very expensive factory. So we were like at one of the most expensive factories that you could get at the time, or even today, on the highest quality. And I have to price that based on what we did, what we produced. Yeah. And so I would say the opposite is true for me. Like, we were over $1,000 for a lot of like decorated 2824s, top grade decorated 2824s, and all that's bronze watches, $1,300. This was over 10 years ago. And now my price point is $420 and $580, and I'm playing but pre-COVID, I was like, I need to be higher than that. My watches need to cost more than that, and the customer, based on what they're buying and experience, is forcing me down. Yeah. Right. And so I feel like if I'm going to be competitive, I've got to sell this like new endeavor. It's at $680, but right now I'm maintaining a pre-order at $580. That's not where it needs to be. Like, it needs to be higher. But I feel like the customer is forcing that down, and I have to play ball.
Yeah.
But like, that's not, I mean, it
It's
is
not
sustainable for me, but I live in Kansas and I'm a one-man business. That
Yeah.
is not sustainable for
Well,
like a growing business.
You can't grow.
and
Period. Yeah.
and for them to compare like what they can buy on Alibaba or AliExpress or Factory Direct to what a micro is doing is not fair. And yeah, I mean, I'm not happy about it, but I'm also like, that said, the economy does stink, and I think this hobby should be fun.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want my prices to go up when the economy is bad, and because what we offer is not a necessity, and it should be fun. So I'm trying to work with what this customer's asking.
Yeah. But it's also your livelihood.
It is. And they're not there for the meetings to plan what this thing costs and what it should cost,
Right.
and all the details that go into.
I think due to the transparency that the internet provides when it comes to like parts and factories even and things like that, yeah, it's very easy to say, well, this on Alibaba or whatever cost X. That means you should not be greedy and charge Y. But like, there's so much more. Obviously,
much
you guys
more.
know. I mean,
So much more.
there's the time that you put into making a thoughtful product.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things is actually the after. Is the operational cost, right? Obviously, but like the after. So like, are you a brand where you're just happy with making a product, selling it to that customer, and saying, "All right, thanks for your business. See you later." Who cares if I'm here next year or 2-3 years from now? Is like, that's your hands are clean.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you actually trying to charge a little bit more, not to be greedy, but to actually have more money to build? Like, if a customer wants more product from you, well, how are you supposed to do that when you don't have money in your pocket to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, if any of our customers just walked the factory floors that we've walked, they would probably never buy like a Swiss watch again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This industry, for better or for worse, there's so much bullshit, and unfortunately, we are the ones that have to deal with all that bullshit. Right? We're the ones that have to like fight against that and say, no, actually, this is where pretty much everything is made. This is how they're made.
I mean, you say Swiss, I think Swiss is just.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a way through from China to Switzerland to America.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's Basel, Shenzhen.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
I do find it interesting that nowadays, this quote unquote microbrand space, you guys, because we just recently got into it, you guys have carved out a segment in the industry that's like actually huge now than it ever was. And along with that, there's a whole new customer base for it. There's a lot of crossover guys who do buy from the Rolex store and want a microbrand watch and things like that. So I think right now it's kind of like Web3 and NFTs. Nobody really knows what the hell's going on. Yeah. And you just make it whatever you want to make it.
Can I tag in Alan for this? You said NFTs, so I just,
is it? Yeah. Okay, because I got questions for you.
All right. Let's get Alan in here.
All right. Well, we have RT from Vortic Watches and Alan from Tsao Baltimore.
Hello.
Yeah, we're just kind of we have obviously a lot of brands here at Intersect, so we're just trying to cycle through and make sure everyone is part of this whole discussion, because we all have a lot of things that we can relate to each other about. But the topic at hand was about, and it's always a hot topic, is pricing, right? And so actually, this is good that RT's here, because what he does and what we do is like very different. It's completely different, but I'm sure he has very relatable. It's a whole nother different set of challenges. And so,
are you saying I charge too much?
No, I'd say you charge. I wish we can charge that much.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. No. So I think I think a lot of this is a podcast, or a recording of all the brand owners, and so I think it's good and educational, and more informative, more than anything, about kind of the things that the decisions that we have to make on a daily basis, to do what we all love, make stuff that we all want to make. And at the same time, you want to have a good relationship and ultimately make what a customer wants as well, because they're the ones that build you up and, are the community that you create and cultivate. And so, where is that fine balance? And obviously a lot of that has to do with price. It revolves around price and things like that. But Alan, what we will do is, though, go through a quick, just like intro of who you are, how you started the brand, and that sort of thing. So we can start with Alan. Go ahead.
Alan Tsao, owner of Tsao Baltimore. So I started in 2017, really, I think it was August of 2017. So it started really from obsession with watches. Like a lot of us, we always bought watches, collected watches. My first watch was the Fossil watch. And then I was really hands-on, so I took the thing apart. It was a quartz. I didn't know what I was doing. I broke it, but over time I eventually fixed it. But that hobby kind of got more and more expensive, and then I started looking into Swiss brands, Omegas, Zeniths, Breitlings, and it got pretty pricey. And then one night my wife looks over at my computer. I'm about to buy I was about to buy the Speedmaster actually, and then I know I still don't have one in my collection, so but I was about to buy it, and then she says, "Alan, stop buying so many watches. Why don't you just start your own company?" So then, my background's in design, so I started designing maybe 50 different watches until I finally finished one. And then once I finished it, I was like, "Damn, if I love it this much, I know that someone else will too." And then that's where I started. My first 2 designs were on Kickstarter. Did really well, and then started growing from there, and then now I'm here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. RT.
And shout out to your wife for
saving some money, kind of.
Yeah, did she really save you?
Now there's watches everywhere in the house, so no.
Truly enabling the hobby and making it a business. Yeah, so I'm RT Custer. I started Vortic Watch Company out in Fort Collins, Colorado, with my friend Tyler Wolf. Back in 2014, we launched on Kickstarter also.
I think I remember that one.
November of 2014. And we wanted to make a watch that was truly made in USA. And we did a ton of research, and we couldn't find anyone to make movements for us at scale. And pretty much everyone told us that watches are made in Switzerland or China, especially movements. So we should just go buy a Swiss movement and throw it in a American case, and that's an American watch. And we just didn't believe that, and so went down the rabbit hole, unfortunately, and learned about what we call the great American watch companies. And they, most people don't know that over 100 million pocket watches were made in USA between 1850 and 1950 by about 10 different companies. And we realized if we took those old pocket watches and turned them into wristwatches, we'd have a 100% made in America watch. They were made there back then, made here back then. And we could make the case and the crown and the other things here. And, we took a pocket watch conversion, not necessarily a novel idea, but we took a pocket watch conversion and made it our entire business model and tried to make everything in America. And that was the concept we put on Kickstarter. And that was nearly 10 years ago. And we're just now figuring it out.
I feel you, brother.
But today it's one of the most made in USA products in the watch industry. And we're really proud of how far we make the best pocket watch conversion that exists, right?
That should be your tagline.
Best pocket watch conversion.
Pocket watch convert, yeah.
And that's what we set out to do. And we only make a few hundred watches a year, but they're built in Colorado, and they're little one of a kind masterpieces.
Yeah.
And here actually I brought a couple prototypes of our next venture. We're starting Colorado Watch Company on Kickstarter. We're going back to Kickstarter.
Nice.
But we call it Colorado Watch Company. I'm wearing one of the
CWC.
prototypes. Yep.
Okay.
And we were launching 2 watches on Kickstarter with our new sister company, our new brand, September 26th. So
That's awesome. Colorado Watch Company. It's so just so solid. It sounds
works,
like it
right?
existed for the last 100 years.
right.
You know?
Yeah, it's, the whole concept is basically an homage and
Yeah.
you know, to what we've done and harking back to the past and all that kind of stuff. So
That's super cool.
yeah,
It's
thanks.
unique. I mean, I think, you know, you obviously had such a strong vision of what you wanted to accomplish, which is a little bit different than I know for myself or a lot of the other microbrands where they're just like, oh, I could just make this myself, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. And make what you like. Whereas, you know, with you, it was, I want 100% American made. And just so happened that pocket watches were that back in the day. So you're literally reviving sort of what most of us, you know, really don't know a whole lot about when it comes to like pocket watches and things like that. But because we're like post pocket watch era, wristwatch era, which that's a whole other thing. But yeah, no, I'm just curious to know, RT, with how did you even like? Did you know that a customer was there with your product? Did you know that, hey, there are people looking for a watch that, you know, is like, I don't know. I know most of your watches are like 50 millimeters or something like that, right? Or like crazy. Like, no, I'm just saying, you know, like
they are large. Yeah.
Did you know that an audience was there that would appreciate this, or were you just like, this is what I like, and I'm just gonna make it. I don't really care if people like it or not.
Well, so Tyler, my business partner, was a watch guy. I wasn't necessarily a watch person. I got a Fossil. My first watch was a Fossil too. I had a Fossil in high school. And I think that was my only watch. And we had the idea on the golf course because he was wearing a watch while playing golf. And I thought that was fascinating. I was like, how can you swing a golf club while wearing a watch? Like, this is bullshit. You know, like I can't wear it. Like I'm just like, my shirt gets in the way when I like, how does this work? So we had this great conversation about watches, and I just started getting more interested in like how they were made from like an engineering standpoint. And then we started asking where they're made, right? And so that's how we got to Made in USA.
Okay.
But the question is a good one, and it's, I mean, Shinola started right around the same time as we did.
Oh, okay.
And just in general, people were talking about Made in USA a lot in like 2010 to 2015. Like that 5 years was like really, that was like major topic. Like, where is it made? And people still do like talk about it today.
We get customers who ask every day.
Yeah, but like for some reason back then it was even bigger. And then obviously, like, you know, Shinola made, I don't know, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, selling watches, American watches, right? And so we figured there was a customer there for the American made side. And the size of it, I mean, the industry hasn't really done Vortic Watch Company any favors, getting smaller and smaller. And you guys keep making, you know, 36, 38 millimeter watch. You're killing me. Because we get the question all the time.
Yeah,
of like,
sure.
This is so cool, but like for the longest time, 46 millimeters was the smallest watch we could make. Now it's 45. We have a 43, but we don't make very many. And it's just the nature of the beast, right? Taking a pocket watch, turning a wristwatch. But the other thing is, you know, we only make, at the most watches we ever made in a single year was 400. Last year we made about 300. So I only have to find a few hundred people a year. Like I could go door to door and find 300 people to buy a watch for a few $1,000s. So that's the way I think about it.
That's interesting. That's really, I mean, it's so niche, and I think it's cool that like, you know, a company like yours exists. But I was trying to bring up earlier about how the industry has changed and how because there's such a massive microbrand presence. I find it, and these are my own thoughts and my own opinions, but this is a space that sort of the luxury brands can never touch. Maybe not never. They're trying to touch it with like Swatch.
Moonswatch.
Exactly. They're trying to. They're trying to touch it. But in my opinion, I really don't think they can, because they're never going to go from, like Swatch Group, the greats, Swatch, Richemont, things like that. They're never going to scale down and give that personal touch and whatever, right? They just can't, because you've already gone past that point. So I feel like brands in this space, the brands that are here at Intersect, which we purposely chose because everyone, first and foremost, are just really cool people that are here.
Thank you.
Yeah. But secondly, it's very clear. You can usually tell. I mean, all you guys know, because when you go to the watch events and everything, you know who's in it. Like who's in it for different reasons, right? And so the brands here, obviously, everyone's cool. Everyone has a purpose for being here, or doing what they do. And so I honestly feel like I wanted to actually take this opportunity in this podcast to kind of discuss how do we work. We're all friends. How do we work together to influence and push a market segment forward, into a space where we are our own thing. Yet I know there's a lot of influence from AliExpress and all these kind of factory direct brands and stuff like that, but like, who cares? Like, let them be them. Let those customers buy that. They're probably not your customer anyway, right? And so this is where that true that phrase of like, hey, everyone rises together. That's where this really starts coming into play. I feel, in my opinion, everyone, you band together, we all have the same, more or less the same sort of goal and vision and purpose, and then you just make this whole segment an actual piece of the market where it has this longevity, and then there's the AliExpress, and like that's the whole other thing that we don't touch.
Yeah, I mean 100%. But the problem with that is there are those other brands that use, like catalog cases or whatever, and they're the ones that, just want to put out a watch, say they have their brand, and be done with it. Versus, what we're doing. This is our passion. This is what we do. This is what we love. And unfortunately, those other brands, they're like, they see everything as competition. We shouldn't be working with that other brand because they're selling it to the same customer. There are plenty of customers for all these watches. Yeah. We're only a small handful in the entire industry. So, we're just trying to give watches and create these awesome designs and awesome watches and provide it to people that love watches too and love our own designs. And it's just, it'd be great if we all work together. We should. We're just a small community. Having these events like this, Intersect, coming together, just having a good time, showing these watches. We're all friends. We're not competitors. We're just watch brands.
Yeah. That's actually a really good segue into another customer question we had. And this question is, the other day I saw a collaboration between Lay's and Cheetos. That's like one chip tasting like another chip. Reminded me of Swatch X Omega and now maybe Swatch X Blancpain. This was written a few days ago, so obviously it's out now. Anything in the works for collaborations and between and not necessarily between your companies as in the brands that are here at Intersect? We'll have to get Wes or Cullen and Steve
we need
about
Wes
that.
and Steve
But
for that,
I think that's a cool question, because like,
Well,
absolutely. Go ahead, RT.
I just Googled it, and Lay's and Cheetos are both owned by Pepsi. So I don't want to undermine the question, but it is much more like Swatch and Omega, and their collaborations, because it's all the same company.
We're doing collaborations ourselves, but it's not really with another watch company. We do like collaborations with, like, we're getting into like the whole crypto world. So we're doing a lot of collaboration with different crypto companies.
Cool.
And then we actually, being from Baltimore, there's this Baltimore beer called the National Bohemian, the Natty Bo. We're actually doing a collaboration watch with Natty Bo to create this watch. It'll be something really fun, something very Baltimorean.
That's awesome.
But we're doing all these collaboration pieces, but nothing another brand to another brand yet.
Well, Wes just joined us, so to that point.
My problem with collaborations is that a lot of the time it just feels like a gimmick, right? Like it's like Watch Brand collaborates with a beer brand or something. Just to break into, I mean, it makes sense.
I literally just said this.
That's exactly why. And that's cool. It's cool.
This Baltimore company with this beer company.
We'll bring it back.
It's cool. It's cool. Beer's awesome. Watches are awesome. So in theory, they work together, right? Now, the harder thing to do is if you can collaborate with someone that doesn't really make sense. And oddly enough, I feel like it's harder to collaborate with another watch company if you're a watch company, right? But as a diehard beer enthusiast, the beer guys have been doing this forever, right? Like living in California, for example, Ballast Point, they're probably the unicorn of the beer industry. They were bought for $1 billion. That's like tech company valuation for beer. Right? For freaking beer.
Crazy.
Well, not many people know this, but they couldn't afford to make their own beer in the beginning. Everything was loaned out to them by this tiny little company, now relatively, called Dogfish Head, right?
Yeah.
In the 90s, right? Dogfish Head made all their stuff, made the recipes. Sculpin is not a Ballast Point recipe, you know?
Right.
And that's like the flagship beer. Right. So these beer guys have been doing it forever. Now we're starting to see car companies do this too.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Like the new Supra is a BMW Toyota collaboration. All these EVs are now like GM and Honda, and like all these like weird collaborations happening where, on the surface, a lot of people don't know that that's happening under the surface, but it's happening because it honestly kind of makes sense.
It's like an operational collaboration.
Yeah. And it makes sense to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So it might make sense for you and this beer company. I wonder.
Nice save.
I
told you to bring it back.
Yeah. But so to the collaboration that we're doing, literally the only reason we're doing it is because of how much Steve has done for us. With the Raven brand, like. Why is Nodus here? Like Steve is probably in the top 3 reasons why Nodus exists. So for us, it's almost an honor to have him co-design something with us. It has nothing. We probably have the same. We're probably both losing money on doing this collaboration, but it's a badass watch, and that's all that matters to me.
It is a bad watch. Yeah, it is bad.
Well, the beer industry is a really good example for this whole thing. And you said I think the quote is, "As the tide rises, all ships rise." Right?
Yeah.
But like, the beer industry is fascinating just to follow because there's so many microbrands. Like I live in Colorado, Fort Collins specifically. There are almost 30 breweries in my hometown. But the most famous one is New Belgium Brewing, which now they're massive and they sold off to one of the big companies. But you can see all these little microbreweries, just like they're microbrands, right? They're collaborating sometimes. They're collaborating with other, similar companies. They're growing. They're having other companies brew things. They're using barrels from wine companies, other things like that to create these partnerships and these collabs. And then all of a sudden they get picked off by one of the huge companies like InBev, and we all celebrate like, holy shit. I think it's a really good topic. It's a really good question because like, if you do these collaborations and these partnerships the right way, and you can kind of piggyback off of each other, and we can, like, the people that care, the people that are here in this room and you, even at Wind Up, right? Like the people that are really here and caring, if we do partner, we can rise with the tide. We can create that tide. And maybe one of us can be the next, Shinola level size business.
Yeah.
So it's a really good topic. It's cool.
I agree. I mean, I think it's like a representation of the relationship that we all have with one another, right? Just like as people, right? We're all buddies, we're we're hanging out and all that. That's what makes this whole thing fun. It just happens to be around watches. But being able to create a product, it's like, why not? Does, from a marketing standpoint, it's like, does the story go to the brands? I'm like, who cares?
Yeah, the enthusiasm comes first.
Like who cares, right? And so, actually, one of a brand that we became really good friends with, Jack, is the Mon watches out of Stockholm, Sweden. Those guys we just became really good friends with when we first met at Wind Up, actually, a year ago in New York. And we actually talked about doing a collaboration together. But that's still a little ways down the pipeline because everyone has obviously a product pipeline and things like that. But that's not the point. The point is, like, we talked about it. The point is, like, it was like, okay, what does a Texas brand have anything to do with a Swedish company? And it's like, you know what? Honestly, who cares?
Yeah,
it
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who cares? Because it's like, at the end of the day, you have watches that your customers like. We have watches that our customers like. Combine forces, and it's just mutually beneficial because you can just, it evangelizes each other's brands to each other's audiences, and like at the end of the day, the watch is still going to be great, right?
It's gonna be a fun watch,
And so I think I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll have like future Intersect collaborative watches. You know what I mean?
I would love to collaborate with everyone in this room.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like that's what makes this job fun. Like we don't have shareholders we have to answer to. We just have friends. We have events. We have design. Like the things that make this job fun. Like that's why we do it.
It'll be funny if it was like this is like the definition of design by committee,
Yeah,
hey,
you like a piece of shit.
You get the dial, you get the case.
I'll get the hands.
It'll be awful.
You
Too
get
many
the
cooks in the kitchen.
What is this Frankenstein watch?
Well, it
kidding.
is interesting, and it is like, I think something like that would be really fun. But to your point with their brand, which their brand is awesome. And speaking of someone that needs to charge more, like every time I see them, I'm
Good
just
Lord.
like, triple your prices.
Yeah.
That is the coolest watch. But I think the farther away the brands are, the more it makes sense from a marketing and like a sales standpoint, because
that's true.
You have very different customer bases, and that's the point. Is you're introducing your customers to their product and their customers to your product. Like, what was it, Lay's and Fritos or Cheetos?
Something like that.
It's the same consumer. Like that doesn't really make sense.
That's actually a really good point.
But when there's not much customer base overlap, from a marketing standpoint, I think that is awesome. And going back to price, where we started, like, I would love to, and I've been talking with Bulova about a collab because there was old Bulova pocket watches. I tried to collaborate with Hamilton, but that didn't work. And
we need to get into that. I have so many questions about that.
That's a whole episode on its own.
But
yeah.
They're like from Vortic's brand, our watches are $2,500 to $12,000. So for us to collaborate with a brand that doesn't sell anything above, let's say, $2,000, that's really interesting, especially an old brand like Bulova that actually has pocket watches that we can do, right? So, whether it's a price point difference, so your customers are different, or whether it's like a geographic location, difference that you were talking about, I think those kind of partnerships just make a lot of sense for the customer overlap.
That does make a lot of sense. I actually didn't necessarily think about it that way, but it does actually make a whole lot of sense. And bringing two audience groups together. Yeah, I mean, I'm freaking pumped about the Intersect here.
Yeah. Thank you guys and everyone in the room for like coming here. I never really thought that this would be anything other than like me calling in a couple of our customers getting drunk, because that literally was what it was. That literally was how this all started. We just went to K-Town in LA and like 4 customers showed up. We gave them their Avalons and then got hammered. That was literally how all this started.
That's so fun.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think this is we start kind of the old school way. We put I don't know how it's old school, but Eventbrite.
Yeah.
We had like, it's funny. I think we first set it. What do we set it at, like 75?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
We're like 75. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that has 75. And then like 75 filled up and then bumped it up to like 100.
150.
100,
yeah.
then 150.
Yeah.
Just like 2 days ago, I had to tell Corey, hey, let's bump it up to 300.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the number's at right now, but
About that, yeah.
About that, but that's amazing, you know. And so
Yeah.
it's very it's encouraging, and I think we'll have a pretty good.
It's gonna be fun.
If anything,
Yeah.
it'll be a good time
Yeah.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Either way, there's gonna be drinks, so
There's gonna be there will be drinks and there will be food and
Speaking of food and drinks, let's go get dinner and rest up for tomorrow.
Yeah.
let's do it. I think this is a good
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's have some fun tonight and
Cool.
prepare for a good tomorrow.
Awesome.
Cue the credits.
Where's your
Outro.
guitar? Yeah, we need a guitar outro.